Heavenly Father, today we put on the full armor to protect us against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations. We put the gospel of peace on our feet to walk in your light, peace and freedom with the Holy Spirit. We rebuke anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith for protection to block and destroy all the darts and threats thrown at us by the enemy. We put on the helmet of salvation to cover our minds and thoughts, reminding us that we are children of a mighty King. We are forgiven, set free, saved by the blood of Jesus. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your living word, that has the power to demolish strongholds and is sharper than any double-edged sword. We come to you, Lord, in prayer daily. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and this week you are going to meet hero mom and a personal hero of mine, Jennifer. Jennifer is in the fight of her life to free her two daughters from their SRA abusive father after corrupt family court surrendered her parental rights and gave the father custody. A haunting story that parallels the likes of other mothers who have made appearances on this show, like Allie Adams and Samantha Baldwin. Jennifer's story absolutely floored me, made me furious, and yet inspired me all at the same time. Facing something so confusing and so dark would drive most people into a tailspin of substance abuse, depression, and even insanity. And yet Jennifer approaches this horrific situation, standing in the word of God and bringing honor and nobility to the suffering she endures daily. The lessons I've learned from her and leading from a place of love and hope are reminiscent of one of my favorite books called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which I highly recommend everyone read. The journey Jennifer is on as a mother who had never heard of satanic ritual abuse, nor ever thought something like this could ever happen to her, is nothing short of astounding. She's one of the most brave women you will ever meet and hear from, and what she's self-taught herself and the way she's been a front runner in this fight for our children will leave a legacy that will outlast time itself. Although devastating, her abusive ex-husband underestimated the fight inside Jennifer and the perseverance she has to press forth and prevail against the dark evils that were bestowed upon her family. Please give Jennifer your full attention. You will learn so much on this episode. And a huge thank you to SRA survivor Lisa Meister for introducing me to Jennifer. Her story was so impactful to me that when I heard her on Lisa's podcast, I asked Lisa to make an introduction, to which she gladly did. And without further ado, you guys, I am so honored to introduce to you woman of God, loving mother, hero, and voice for the voiceless, Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. That brought tears to my eyes. That was so kind of you. It's definitely a tough battle. But it's the heroes like you calling people like me to share our stories that gives me meaning to my life, and through a purpose to the pain. So thank you so much for that. Was such a kind introduction.
Oh, you inspire me so much. I think everybody should approach you that way. You know, it breaks my heart hearing what a lot of you and survivors and mothers and parents and anybody in this fight, even myself, talking about it. You're met with so much opposition and the entire time, and you get these things beat into your head that you're gaslit by all the time, and you seldom hear all the amazing things that you do, and sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that. So I always love getting to, you know, share what your stories mean to me. It's really special because you guys are really special with what you've taught me, and the fight that you're doing is something, you know, 99.9% of people don't have the courage, will, or you know, the fearlessness to do. And it's my honor getting to meet you and have you on. So I'm so grateful that you're here today. Now, for people who may not have listened to Lisa's podcast or may not have heard your story, I'd love to talk a little bit about you, Jennifer, and let's talk about your upbringing, because you were not an SRA survivor or abuse survivor, and this was something very new to you. And I'd love for you to talk about, you know, where you grew up and a little bit about your upbringing.
Yeah, thank you. So I grew up in a very tight-knit family. Most of even my parents' siblings are here, cousins, we get together. Grew up Catholic. I'm the second child of four. I've got an older sister, younger brother, and actually an oldest sister that we found out in 2016, I have an older half sister that found our family. So 2016 was a year of, that's the year that my world changed. And I said, okay, God, you knew we need another, more love in our family. And I had a sister out there that never, if you would have said, it was so unbelievable. My mom was young at a party at 17, just out of her graduation before, and drank a little bit and got pregnant, and then went away to school went away to help some farmers so she could raise money. And little did many people, nobody had an idea that she gave birth to a beautiful older sister of mine who 9 months or so after losing my children to the court system came into this family. So I have 2 older sisters and then a younger sister, younger brother. But
Oh my gosh. So I'm guessing
yeah,
your mother gave the older sister up for adoption at that age?
she did. And my
Oh,
older sister, her adoptive mother had passed away, and her family was encouraging her to find her birth family, and she found us. So
what a
yeah.
gift for her too, to lose her adoptive mom and now to have, another family to comfort her and to be there for her too during hard times.
Yeah, yeah, and she's just, it's amazing. She's an amazing person, and her children. So yeah, but our family grew up very sports oriented, very close. Like I said, a lot of just your basic everyday family raising kids that like sports. That my parents did divorce when I was younger. My dad was kind of in and out of our lives, but my mom and dad always had a great love for each other. My dad just was addicted to gambling and just couldn't get over gambling. And my mom, he couldn't raise a family with somebody that was not able to give that addiction up.
Yeah.
But he passed away the summer of 2016 of cancer. And he was just a kind soul. Honestly, both sets of my grandparents, very strong, loving personality. My dad was not around a lot of my childhood, but my mom never really talked bad about him. And she married my stepdad is an amazing person and I have 2 stepsisters and 2 stepbrothers who are also around, and again, a close-knit family. So grew up pretty normal childhood, amazing, close-knit friends. I went to a private school and then went to school around here. So, but a small-ish town of about 20 to 25,000 people along the Mississippi River.
How interesting. I think that, it's amazing what you've been able to piece together having an upbringing like that, but it also brings to mind how that power of love stays with us and how we can tap into that through having so many blessings in life, how it can sometimes help us, in situations that are really hard. So fast tracking just a little bit, how did you meet your ex-husband or where did you meet him?
Mm-hmm. So we about half an hour from my hometown was a small private school, and we both ended up working for the school at a gym. He was the manager of the fitness center, and then I was assistant manager. And we just slowly kind of developed this connection. I remember Christmas dinner, we were at the college took us out to eat, and he brought me little crackers because he knew it was just seemed to be kind and thoughtful. And my Christmas, he got me a Christmas gift of a CD that I'll never forget. It was Regina Spektor at the time. He must have heard me play a song occasionally, and so it just seemed to be, I was in my late 20s and wanted love so badly, and wanted to be married, wanted to settle down, and he seemed like a regular guy that seemed caring, and we fell in love. And yeah.
And isn't that what any 20-something girl looks like? Like I look on a lot of my relationships and I just think, gosh, I'm so grateful that like I was able to eventually see signs, because after learning from, women like you and mothers who are speaking out, or even people who got out of the system who were around these types of personalities, like you really can't tell. And I think that there's a misconception that society has of, hearing a story and saying, well, why wouldn't you just leave? And it's like, are you kidding? So y'all can't look back at your past and think, how was I ever friends with that person? How did I date that person? It's always in hindsight, and it's so easy to get caught up in stuff. And some people do know what to say. I always hear the word vulnerability thrown out with survivors or, mothers. You don't know you're vulnerable. That's what makes you vulnerable. And certain people, narcissists and, occultists and people who are very well versed in what vulnerabilities are, it's like you don't even realize that you're a walking target sometimes. Especially, there's always that saying that empathetic people attract narcissists, and I think there's so much truth to that.
Yep, for sure. And now, oddly, when my older sister came, we played volleyball once. She right off the bat was not a fan for whatever reason. Now, he wasn't warm and friendly to her. It wasn't like he was this big bubbly personality, but he was kind, I thought. And but something oddly for her, and the whole time she never had any warm and fuzzy feelings. There was a time we moved to a bigger city. We moved to, I'll say, Kansas City. And he got a neat job, and the people he worked with were neat. He got along well with them. He's kind of an awkward, kind of introvert guy. And then when we would be out in public, he'd be more attentive to me. And I love that because I'm kind of awkward and socially, so we would gravitate to each other, and it felt like to me that public persona, like, oh, yep, he shows me how he loves me. That's where I then translated that. Then the distance at home, no, that's in my mind, I made who he was out in public, or not in public, but when we were at these small events, like that's who he really is. So the narcissistic traits, like not sharing your food, or I would make excuses for him all the time. And there was a time we broke up briefly before we got engaged, and my sisters were so happy. And again, there wasn't any telltale signs, just that he was very narcissistic. Most people outside of my friends and my family would not have known that. We would never just see your true, oh, I'm going to post the good stuff on Facebook out when we're out in public. He's going to seem attentive to me, and I wanted to believe the same. So there was, absolutely no real signs. The gym that we worked at, I do remember some of these little older ladies were like, you're dating him. And again, I kind of felt sorry for, well, he's just awkward is what I would chalk it up to. But no, he just wasn't warm and friendly to them. Then people could see that. He could pick and choose who he's going to be warmish to or friendlier to. But
And how was he at home in comparison to what you'd see at an event or whenever you guys are around other people?
Well, he developed kidney disease. So at home, he was tired a lot, on the couch a lot. He did do some of the cooking a lot, especially once we had the kids. He would cook dinner and but he was almost always on the couch, very negative. Everything I did was wrong. I cut my hair short. He told me that I look like a lesbian, which whatever that means, I shouldn't have, but he was, I didn't want to fight in front of the kids. So I would do anything in the world, anything to try and avoid arguments. I would be outside with the kids. He just wasn't very involved. The next door neighbors, when we were going through this, they said, we just thought that he was a father that wouldn't even care because he never seemed to be attentive to the kids. He would come over and talk to us about football. He wouldn't talk to us about the children. He would never even engage with any of the kids. I would be very much involved with the kiddos. I mean, so they were shocked. Why is he even, they would have ever pictured him as a father that would be like, oh, I have to be so involved in my children's life. They did state that, and the one neighbors, they had very high positions that he thought very much of. The other neighbors, he wasn't warm and friendly to them. If he didn't even, he wasn't, that these two boys were afraid of my husband. I mean, again, did he do anything particular that I could say, oh no, he just would snap at the two boys and wasn't warm and friendly to them. My sister came to visit, so we moved to his hometown in Ohio, and another small town, miles from any of the big cities. But so my sister and mom came to visit, and it's not like he held the door open for my mom. I never saw him do anything for his own mom. His mom doted on him very much, but I made the excuse as his father died of kidney disease, and his mom would tell me, I spoiled my son so much. So I heard her making excuses. She would tell me, he doesn't know love. His dad died at a young age. You have to teach him how to love his kids. You have to teach him. And constantly, his mom, who I was very close with, would give excuses for his behaviors. And I would take those excuses and be like, yeah, she's right. I was in such denial that the power and control thing, I wasn't getting hit. But the emotional abuse, what was hard for me is he would do the withhold talking. He just would shut down and not talk at all. That was, but a lot of the power and control issues for sure. He was a quiet person. So in the home, when he never yelled at the kids, really. I mean, and he seemed to be loving to the kids, and as they seemed to be loving to him. And occasionally, and you bet the times that he ever was with the kids, I would snap that photo, because that's what I then wanted. He's going to get over this kidney disease, is what I was blaming this on. So I would snap a photo of him being like, oh, that's who he is. And I'd post it on Facebook, and here he is with the girls. So anytime that I could count the number of my hands probably that he engaged with the girls. And I bet it was on Facebook, because I want to portray, and in my own heart, I wanted to believe that white picket fence is there. He can be this person. He's just not. He's just tired from his kidney disease. He's just depressed, or, oh, he didn't like the job, or, oh, we were away from his friends, or, oh, once we get to his friends. I would make excuse after excuse of why he was controlling, or why he was aloof or quiet or mean or angry at the world.
And it's so easy to do that. I look back at all the things that I went through where I was with people that were just not good for me at all. And that's the thing with abusive people that is also misconstrued, is people have this facade, if they have never been with a narcissist or somebody who's controlling, that it has to just be this doom and gloom all the time. And they don't realize that, whenever you're a caring, loving person, and you do have those hopes and those aspirations, and you tend to look on the bright side, or tend to look for the good in people, and you want to see the potential, and it's there. But abusive people can have really beautiful, loving moments with other people. And it might not be what you get all the time, but for somebody who really, really, wants that, and who thinks the same way, and who's devoted, and who wants to start a family and get married, and, but also understands that all these things are happening in the other person's life, it's easy to tie those things as excuses instead of looking at the big picture, because we are not taught narcissism in school. We're not taught abuse in school. We're taught stranger danger whenever we're really little. There's not courses that we take on that. And it's so confusing, especially as a woman. I feel like there's so much vulnerability with that.
Yeah. And another big thing is, if you find like, oh, there's not pinpoint, again, I'm missing the financial. I was not, I couldn't handle money. I'm terrible with it. So he was in control of it and wouldn't even let me see our finances. I ended up going to a therapist because I knew our marriage was not in a good space. So I wanted to figure out how to make this marriage work. I am not going to get divorced from my husband. I'm going to stick this out. It's going to get better, and she said, oh boy, there were so many things right off the bat. She's like, I've counseled a lot of people, and there's some things going on here. And she's like, one of them being that he wouldn't let me see our finances. And she said, I was to Christmas break, I was supposed to take my check and put it into my own account, and I couldn't do it. I could have. I mean, I didn't do it. I went to him and said, hey, I'm supposed to do this. I've asked you multiple times to please let me have some look into our account, and he flipped out on me, and why would I have approached him first? That dependency personality. But that was something, yeah. So controlling the finances. And then the other thing too, I'm looking back at his sister's house. We hardly ever really fought. Again, we didn't engage in a lot of arguments. But at his sister's house, he would do something, and I might like say something back, and it was like, what in the heck? What? Just like, it's like he picked on me, so that if it was almost like, now looking back, like, so too, in front of his family, that I would look like this person that for the most part I'm not, if that's making any sense. So if you find, yeah.
100%. And those things too, like those little tiny gaslighting things, it's like you said, it's not like they're hitting you. It's not like they're cheating on you. Like, it's really easy to dismiss something that doesn't look like what you think abuse would look like, and the diminishing comments and those little things, putting you down or saying you don't know how to handle money. It's like you get these things drilled in your head, and you really do think, gosh, if I just improve myself a little bit, it'll all go away. If they just improve a little bit, it'll all go away, and I've met a lot of moms who went on these like big personal development journeys thinking, oh, he's right. I must be a bad person. Like nothing's working. I guess I need to go improve myself. I'm going to go get self-help books. I'm going to go get therapy, when that's like the distraction from the actual problem, and it's so sad and scary that that happens so easily. Like, I don't know a single person that's not susceptible to that. Like every person goes through that at some point, even if it's a friend that, is super passive aggressive. Like that type of abuse goes undercover so much. And it's so easy to like, just look over it and to think, oh, well, that was rude, but they're just not feeling good. So I know tomorrow it'll be fine and I'll forgive them. Like it wasn't that big of a deal. But those little things after, it's like putting money into a piggy bank, eventually it's like you're full of all these negative emotions and unempowering beliefs. And if you're told them enough, like it starts to become this unconscious thing that you, even if you don't outwardly believe it, and even if you can say like, no, that's not me, there's like a part of you that starts to believe that, and it like dims your light,
Very much. That's about hitting in that's hitting it perfectly, and then if you're that endless optimist, and then, oh, well, so many people just get a divorce too easily. I mean, again, I that was not on my radar. I'm going to do anything I can to fix it, to do whatever it is to make him happy. So that is going on in the background. And we have two little girls. We moved from Kansas City to where his family was in Ohio after the first. And then
did he seem excited to have children? How did that go? Like before they were born, did he seem really excited? Did he get mad at you for getting pregnant? Like, was there anything that you could tell then that was a little bit off looking back?
Not really. I had thought I could have sworn we had conversation. I knew I wanted children. I wanted children, and I knew I wanted to be a mom. Very much so. So, and I thought he was on the same board. He seemed happy to have the first child. I will say 2 days after having that baby, that our oldest, who is now 10, 2 days after, she was crying and I couldn't get her to sleep. I was so exhausted and he wasn't helping. And I was like, his mom, who I had only met really at our wedding and one other time. We were together 3 years before we got married, and this is the other thing. Our marriage was pretty sexless. We had 2 children, and the therapist said, well, was it like that before? Yes. I would have tried to engage. And he told me he just did not like sex that much. He never did as a teenager. He's just one of those people that it's not a big thing. So that is something else too. After that, when our baby was 2 days old, I said, will you please just hold her, help me, something. He had never hit me before. He raised his hand up. I was holding our 2-day infant, and it was like he was going to punch me in my face. And it shocked us, both of us. And his eyes were this black as coal eyes. And it was terrifying. And I never asked him again that night. But I also learned that evening, I'm putting her right next to me. And then I became a co-sleeper, and my daughter slept, and I nursed her. I nursed both of my children, and I ended up co-sleeping, which then at the co-sleeping, he then stated that he wouldn't sleep in the room with us because we had this big king size bed. He didn't really want to co-sleep with the girl. So he was sleeping on the couch. And at the end there, the oldest at age 3, we got her to bed, made a big deal, and she wanted to go into her room, and I read books about, so she transitioned to her own room. But towards the end, right before disclosure, the last couple months, she was not wanting to go on her own room again. And the youngest, absolutely, she was terrified of her father. And one night even came to me, this was 2 weeks prior to my daughter's disclosure, that her daddy was a monster and touching her. My 2-year-old, or she was a year and a half, in the middle of the night, just time for bed, and just came to me terrified, shaking, crying. She didn't want to go to her daddy, told me he was a monster. And we're not talking like, oh, my daddy's a monster. I mean, this is imagine seeing your child fall or scrape or whatever, get absolutely terrified of their own father out of the blue and tell you that they're a monster. I mean, but not just, I mean, we're talking clawing at me. And I was like, honey, that's your daddy. Daddy's not a monster. And I look at him, I'm like, no, that's daddy, baby. I mean, I had no idea. And that I blocked out until I was, after my oldest disclosed, who was just over 4 years old. It dawned on me a couple days, these things just flood through, and it's like all these things are coming through it was my husband on the couch the night my daughter disclosed to me. It was a normal night. And now prior to her first disclosure, she was starting to, and now I know the term now, I didn't at the time, disassociate into being an alien. And we're not talking like a normal play alien. I told the doctor, even she had her 4-year-old checkup the day she disclosed, and I said, she's acting like she's an alien. The doctor said, oh, no, kids do that. I'm telling you. And I'm like, yeah, but this was not real. It was concerning enough for me to bring it up. But I was, oh, okay, maybe she's right. But I did snap a video of my daughter after a good half hour of this crying an alien. In the video, I seemed so cold. I watched myself. She was so tired too, but she was absolutely upset that she wasn't leaving our home and going away to her moon. And whatever she was going through was so terrible. She wanted to leave our home. Prior to her disclosure in the fall of 2015, she had started getting, again, she didn't want to sleep in her room anymore. She kept saying she didn't want me to die. And honey, I'm not going to die. Mommy's fine. And I talked about it with my mother-in-law, who, oh, she must be talking. It's learning about death is normal. And then he told me that his mom must have talked about how her mom died. And that must have been where our daughter, our oldest, was getting it. But when she disclosed, she begged me not to leave the room because.
And he was out on the couch when she disclosed?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And she was terrified and didn't want me to leave the room, and just said, but she said, I just want these bad dreams to stop, Mama. And I knew instantly something's going on. She didn't just come out and disclose right away, but Mama, please don't leave me. I mean, I just need these bad dreams to stop. And of course, I thought she was talking about the aliens. So I had already here, after talking with the doctor, then I posted a post on Facebook, because I was like, hey, I just couldn't stop thinking of this. My daughter acted like an alien, and I posted the video, and I said, the doctor said it's normal. Did your kids do this too? And instantly, my two siblings, my two sisters, I had an aunt who worked in child protective services. All of them reached out to me and said, ooh, my two sisters said, get that video down immediately. This is disturbing. And then my aunt stated she'd like to refer me to her stepdaughter, who is a doctor in North or South Carolina, who does is a therapist for children, or a therapist. And I was like, oh, okay. So that happened literally the day before. And so I thought, okay, it's about the aliens. I'm going to help her with these aliens. And I said, it's about the aliens. And when she says no.
That ongoing from the one time that she did it, that you got on film, until the disclosure day, did she have multiple times where she was talking as an alien, and did she relive that?
No, just that one time that she really acted like me. This was the day before. So I thought it was 2 days before, but I looked back in the video recently and it's timestamped the date and time, and it is literally the day before. So
What about that instance made you think like, why did you question if that was normal or not? I think a lot of parents would hear that and be like, oh, that's, you know, just like how the mother-in-law was like, oh, that's normal, like just being a kid, you know. What about that was different than what you'd picture a kid doing when they're playing?
Ooh, she got emotional about that when it first I'll never forget. I was standing right in the kitchen, right by the kitchen sink, and she says to me, "Well, mommy," in a sing-song voice, okay, and she might have even said, I might not get this exactly right, but hey, I just need to thank you. Thank you for taking care of me. This has been great. And I might get emotional here, but this has been a great time here. You guys have been great. But I need to leave. I need to leave this place. My daddy's gonna be coming on a rocket ship and I'm gonna be leaving you guys. And it was just at the time again, I was like, whoa, okay, no, honey, you're not an alien. Yes, I am. And I said, and I in the kitchen, like, okay, we go to the library a lot. I said, let's go to the library and we'll go look at some books. And she says, no, I've got books on my moon. And this is a 4-year-old. And that was, what? She doesn't go to the library? No, I'm gonna go. I'm really leaving. I'm really leaving this place. And I was like, and I kept trying to get her off of it and she wouldn't. And then I thought, well, she's talking about her family's up there and I'll call my family back home and maybe they can pretend like they're an alien and hey, they're fine. She needs to stay where she's at. Cause I was trying to say, no, you're fine. You're Layla. You're my oldest daughter. You're going to stay here. And my sister didn't answer. So then I was like, I knew it would be kind of out there. I called her daughter, who happened to be, she was like 10 or 12. She answered the phone and she was at a basketball game and she understood. I was like, hey, it's your aunt. My oldest daughter here thinks is saying she's an alien. Needs to leave this earth and go to you guys. She needs to leave and go to her moon, but she's fine here, isn't she? So she caught on to, oh yeah, no, you can't. You're fine. You need to be there with your mom. And instead of that helping her, my daughter, we hung up the phone and now she's like more determined. See, that was my cousin. I am leaving. I am going on this moon. And again, my husband's on the couch and I said to him that I text him, hey, she's telling me her daddy's coming to get her. Will you please just help me here? I'm texting. So we go back in the back room. We call him and he picks up and she says, hey, daddy, or something like, I'm ready for you to get me on the moon. He says, okay, I'll be there. And what? No, you won't be here. I was hoping that he would like catch on and just say you wouldn't, but he said he'd be coming to get her. And so she grabs the most random things. I mean, obviously nothing that, now, but she takes her backpack and starts filling it up with things and then goes to the back window. And I text my husband, oh my gosh, she thinks that she's leaving and she's an alien. She really thinks she's an alien. And so the kitchen was connected to the living room and the back windows and doors all right next to the bedroom and the couch is there. So he's witnessing this. He's on the couch and I'm telling her, honey, he's not coming. You're our daughter and you're not an alien. And she starts crying. She's got her winter jacket on and she's crying. And that's when we sit on the bedroom and I'm like, you know what, I'll pull out my video. And one day when she graduates, I'm going to tell her how imaginative she was. And this video, then I pull out and I'm videoing her and she clearly needs comforting. And it's so disturbing. You listen to her crying and she wants to leave and go on her daddy's rocket ship. It's holiday time. She needs to leave and she's very tired. You can see, and it's just, it's not normal. It's just that it was so emotional and draining. That's how it was. Yeah. Sorry, that was a long story to tell that little bit.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because I think it's like how you said, I didn't know what dissociation was. And I know that there are parents that listen to this or people that want to be. And I think it's important to hear firsthand, you know, what does that look like if a little toddler is dissociating, and what's normal and what's not, you know, and how do you know? And I think, you know, those little tidbits help a lot. So I really appreciate you sharing. That's
Mhm.
so
Now,
bizarre.
yeah, and I will come back when in late. I mean, it's not like my daughter disclosed and just then she's gone. They're not. It took several. So January 16th,
Yeah,
or January
let's talk
20th.
about the disclosure. How did that happen?
Yeah, January 20th. And so she's telling me in her room not to leave. And of course, I'm thinking it's the alien. And then she says, nope, it's not the aliens. It's about a monster this time. I mean, she didn't, but it's her daddy, her uncle, and she named her uncle, her daddy, and a monster. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she, again, not, we're talking utterly, utterly terrified, eyes darting, breathing heavy, panting, like, I can't talk about it. It's too scary, mommy, too scary. And I'm like, honey, I'm calming her down. I'm getting a calm voice. I'm right here. It's okay. You can talk about it. You can tell me you're okay. And the youngest had ran out of the room, and she gasped when she left the room. And then she came back and I said, it's just your baby sister. And then so the three of us then, and the baby, she's a year and a half. She knew, like, she was dead silent. Like, they've got these big, beautiful, big blue eyes, and they were both massive. And the oldest one darting to the door, and I am then worried. Like, I can clearly tell she's afraid of her daddy coming into the room, and hearing her talk. So then I'm afraid, and I'm kind of like, what if he's standing out there listening to? I don't know what she's really saying, but she's terrified of him, and it's very clear. And he's not her daddy. She's telling him he turns into he's a monster. And the little one, it was like, was kind of affirming, like, just sitting there again, not saying yeah, but and I'm leaning against the wall. It's a twin bed, and my arm on my right hand side, the middle one, and then the oldest was on the outside. And they both were clamoring, both wanted to be right on top of me too during this. And I'm continuing to comfort them. And she says her daddy's coming into her room, but he's a monster, and he's coming into her room at nighttime and touching her. And of course my heart's just beating outside of my chest. I just, it's unreal. Now I'm going to take this back a little bit. My mother-in-law, who I was very close with, disclosed that her father sexually abused her, allegedly from age 12 until she left the home and married my ex-husband's father, who was much older than her. She told me that when her sister posted something on Facebook, like on a Father's Day, like, I miss my daddy. And she's like, oh, why she even post that? Her dad was not a good man. And told me all about her abuse, her sexual abuse by her father, and how he told her if she told anyone that he'd hurt them. So she never told anyone because she thought by allowing it to happen, she was saving her siblings, and that it was only happening to her. Well, as my ex-sister-in-law was like around 6 or 7, she and a cousin went into a barn and came out of the barn and told on their grandpa, which would be my mother-in-law's father, and that he was abusing them. Well, then it came out that all of she and her 2 sisters, the one sister died of alcoholism, liver failure, had all been abused. The grandchildren had been abused. So I knew that was in the family, but she was, again, my mother-in-law was very good at telling me what I needed to hear. She would give me a little snippet, but now never had her son around her father. She told me her children were never around him. She would never let her kids be around her parents because she's going to protect them. And I don't know how, but anyway, so here's my daughter now telling me that her daddy's touching her. I mean,
when she told you that, what was going through your head? Did it confirm something and you were like, okay, this makes sense? Or was it like, what is she saying? What in the world? That can't be happening.
A little of both. because it's my husband and he's on, you know, at the time I thought he loved me. I thought I loved him.
You had no idea.
Even though we weren't in this fairy tale marriage, I still had these hopes that we're going to get out of these things. At the time, I still did. It was so I didn't know there was the power and control thing. I was oblivious to knowing any of that. So I was shocked. But at the same time, like, I believe, not a question in my mind did I believe that he was coming in. And I said to her I said, well, where's daddy touching you? And then she said, at nighttime in my bedroom. I meant like, and she was shaking her little right hand. She was struggling to really talk. I had to encourage her to, it's okay, baby, it's okay. And she was taking a little index finger on the back of her left hand and drawing a little circle. I can see that just right. And then after she disclosed, she was both the girls were like, their claws were clinging into me. They were absolutely terrified. I had to calm them down. And then it was like she was hyperventilating, didn't want to be in her room anymore and wanted to get out of her room. Well, I know I've got to be calm. We're going to have to walk in front of her daddy, my husband, on the couch. And how am I going to do this? Because I had come to the realization he's not outside the door. So, okay. So I did. I walked in front of the girls. As calm as possible. And I walked with the girls on each hip into our bedroom and got them finally to lay down, and they're screaming in the bedroom. He doesn't know why they're screaming. I mean, they had been pretty clingy to me the last few months. So, especially the last few weeks. So maybe that wasn't so abnormal. And then once I knew they were asleep, I reached over, picked up my phone, and I texted my sisters who happen to live right next door to each other and said, and they worked in child services. Oh my gosh. He's touching her. He's touching my girls. He's hurting the girls. And then I called them, and we were trying to whisper, and I was like, he's right outside the door. What if he's hearing me? And they said, well, just go approach him, which was horrible. Do not approach. These people are master manipulators. They've learned to manipulate all their lives. They're going to manipulate you, is exactly what he did. Oh, this is not me. Well, he flew off the couch. That look that I had when my daughter was 2 days old, that black look in his eyes came back. This evil, it's like this evil look in his eyeballs. I know I can't, this kind of like a demon looking in his eyes. And he wanted to get to the daughter. And I said, no, absolutely. She's terrified of you. You're not going to go talk to her. You're not talking to her at all. And of course, then he's going to start working on me, calms himself down. And this isn't me. It's a daycare provider. He's home. She just acted like an alien. Maybe she's schizophrenic. Maybe something's wrong with her. This is absolutely crazy. Jennifer and so somehow he then is picking up the phone, and he has a friend that's an attorney, and in my mind, I thought he was calling his friend who's an attorney. I don't know why. And so I went back in the room, and I called my sister. I was like, he's calling an attorney. And they're like, what? And I was like, he's picking up the phone, and I go out. It wasn't an attorney. It was his mom he called. And she calmed everything down. The mom had calmed us both down and said, something's going on with the oldest. We need to get her into help, I'll come help. And so that I locked the bedroom door so he couldn't come in. And I called off work the next day, and he then set up, he wanted to get to the girls so badly. I called off work, but I had to give then my client list to my manager. And my husband's like, hey, it snowed overnight. I'm going to go shovel the sidewalk. Goes and shows me the shovel. The girls can watch me. My office is just right there by the front door. I'll be outside. You can send off your work. Don't worry. The girls will be inside, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, he never does anything like that for his mom. I've never seen him open the door. Never. Wow. He's going to shovel a sidewalk for his mom. Okay. That works perfect. Cause then he's outside. I can send those off, and perfect. We get his mom in safely. Nope. 2 minutes, maybe 2 to 5 minutes max. I come out of the office, and he's talking with the girls. How dumb could I have been? And my heart sinks. But my daughter, who was just like the oldest, who disclosed it, who was an alien the night before, had been this and is a loving, happy child who had not been the weeks prior to her disclosure. Suddenly, she's back to this. It was like snapped back in half to who she was in her heart. She was smiling, and she says, "Hey, mommy, I told daddy how I told you how he touched my pee-pee last night." Exactly. And I kneel down by her. He turns as white as the door. Now she said he touched her pee-pee. She didn't say that the night before. And I look at him, I'm like, you did. And I know that she didn't, but he said he touched my pee-pee last night. I knew he couldn't have, because I was with the girls, and I said, well, has he ever done it any other time? She says, yes, lots of times. And he says, no more questions. And I was terrified. The girls, they snapped back into terrified mode of him. It was like, oh gosh, I absolutely shut down, as did the girls. I'm protecting them. I'm not going to ask her any more questions. I black out from that time. Somehow his mom comes in. And she then is going to try and talk my daughter out of this and talk me out of believing this happened. Now I'm typing away to this counselor that my aunt had set me up, this doctor. And I'm also calling my therapist. She says, call Child Protective Services. I call Child Protective Services. I'm a bawling wreck, calling my husband is potentially sexually abusing my children. My child just said he touched her pee-pee last night. And they said, well, and I said, that couldn't have happened. I was with them. And they said, well, we'll be over probably within 24 hours to investigate if we take your case. And I, of course, thinking they're going to take my case. 24 hours go, nobody comes. But during the day, I've got some questions for my mother-in-law. I want to know now, you told me, because I'm thinking all these things are going through my mind. I didn't sleep at all the night before. She told me she never left her husband around her father. Was he around her father? So I said, did you ever, the girls are down for a nap or whatever, playing at lunch. And I said, did you ever, you told me you never left your husband or my husband with your father, but your husband died of kidney disease and you were gone for 6 months in a bigger city. And you were there for 6 months. Who watched your kids? Did you have your parents watch your kids? And she says, I had no other choice. Oh, okay. She did. She let her father watch her 2 children. Okay. So now I know my husband was let alone with this man who I know has abused. And the month or the summer before, so this is January, in the summer from April to August, the summer before, I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, training for a job, staying at his cousin's house, and his cousin and I became very close. She disclosed that grandfather did in fact abuse her, and she admitted it to me. She didn't know about anybody else, though. I don't know that I know of. That was the first she'd really talked about it. So I knew for sure she had corroborated the story. She was abused. So, okay, now I know my husband's been around his grandpa. Maybe he was abused and that's caused him to be. So now and then my daughter would masturbate a lot as a little girl, and a lot, and not be able to stop it. And I wouldn't be able to get her to stop doing it. And my mother-in-law, oh, that's normal for kids, would normalize everything. And told me that my niece, or my ex-sister-in-law's daughter, was in 3rd grade in the middle of school and masturbating in class. And the teacher called CPS. So, but of course she had said no, that there was no big deal. Some kids do that. Some kids do it longer than others. In fact, blah, blah, blah. So I want to know, hey, you mentioned, and I said the granddaughter's name, the niece's name. I said, when she was in 3rd grade and doing that, what happened with that? Because I'm thinking maybe, was he watching her? Was he babysitting her at the time, and she says, nah, we took her to the doctor. We took her to the family doctor. They said, that's completely normal behavior. That's normal behavior. And I could tell, oh, I'm losing her. She does not want to talk about this. She's, so that was day 1 and day 2.
Oh my goodness. And what, your daughter doing that, did she say anything about it? Or were there any things that she related that to you with your ex? Or was that something that she was just doing and not really even thinking anything about?
You mean masturbating or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it seems as no, I've got photos of her. She would be sleeping on her leg. When I would visit my family, she would do it. And my older sister had said something like, this just doesn't feel right. Like, I mean, and I was like, well, it is. That's how, she's one of those kids that does it a lot. I mean, and in fact, later again, when the GAL comes in and I talk about this with the GAL, well, I masturbated all the time. That's normal. You're telling me that I was sexually abused. I said, no, I did not say that at all. Not all kids that masturbate excessively and she would go into this, like, she would do it all the time. I mean, and I feel bad I don't know why I feel like I'm exposed. Here I'm talking about all this stuff and why do I feel embarrassed talking about that for my daughter? It's like, but she's a child. She didn't know.
That's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And no, that's important for parents to know, because how many other parents might be going through this and being gaslit and told the same thing, that, oh, that's just normal. Don't pay attention to it. All kids do that. It's like, no.
Yeah. And we're talking multiple UTIs. We'd been to specialists because she'd had, I always thought it was like maybe her food or something. So from a little girl, we'd taken to the doctor, and now the December before, we went to a specialist, and 3 weeks prior to the testing, the doctor, of course, had told you can't change the diet. And I had told the doctor, this cleared up. Whatever she has cleared up. And I don't know if he was clearly abusing her then, and he stopped because he didn't want to get caught. She was determined not to have celiac disease, all these things. So when you feel something's wrong, when you're going to the doctor for UTIs after UTIs, when there's a family history of sexual abuse, when your child's masturbating a lot, there's a lot of things that it's like, why any one of those things should have maybe led me to think of it. And it took my daughter disclosing it to me. But I have all those things. Even with all those things, did Child Protective Services come? Are my children protected? No. I mean, I didn't know at the time. I, having family in Child Protective Services and child services, I was very naive to thinking the system will protect you. The system is going to get it right. I'm doing everything right. That I would not have fathomed that this was possible. I didn't know about the Samantha Baldwins of the world. I do now. I will say, at night, I would be pouring the internet, Googling everything, looking at everything, reading anything. And there's a site called the Mama Bear Effect. And they have so many resources. And they sent me a list of books. So I went out and bought these books. And in April, I was reading a book in the courtroom, and I'll never forget this. The line, it was a book by Keith Snow, I believe it is. The Worst Interest of the Children. Or the Child, that's the book I was reading. And he says, mothers go into the system in one of these chapters. And in each mother will say, well, that's not me. I'm not crazy. I don't do drugs. I don't do alcohol. I'm college educated. Those were those women. They had to be doing something crazy. When they enter the system, they think, well, I'm going to be protected because I am not. And here I'm reading that, and the door was open a crack. I heard the attorney, and again, this is months after, there's so much that happened from the disclosure to this point, but the attorney to my ex-husband is saying, or my husband still at the time, the divorce hadn't gone through yet, is saying those kids need to be taken from, and I'm texting my family ferociously, oh my gosh, they're going to take my kids. And they're all like, no, that can't happen. I'm like, it's coming. It is happening. I know it. I know, I'm telling you, they're going to take my kids. So, but again, it's a lot. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So when they disclosed, and up until that point, what was happening with your husband at the time? Did you move out? Were you guys still living together? Were the kids staying with you, or kind of what was the dynamic going on there?
So when she disclosed, we were married. I was seeking counseling. He was telling me he's miserable in his job. He was in sales. We moved back because before he loved his job, but he wasn't near his family. So that was why he said he was depressed. And so now we're near his family and his friends. Well, now he's saying he's depressed because he's miserable in his job. And, okay. And so he was applying for jobs outside of there. And I thought, okay, we'll go to the next place. And then, he'll love his job again and things will be magical again. Well, then my daughter discloses this, and then it's like a bomb went off, and all these things I keep going. It's like, And at this time, I still didn't remember about my youngest telling me about him being a monster. That didn't come in till later. But it's like, about my niece, about masturbating, about oh my gosh, all these things, like the pieces are kind of falling into place. Well, then now she's going to start to disclose more, and his behaviors are going to go absolutely crazy. He's telling me again, and I'm wanting to believe it's not him. You can bet that I do not want it to be him. I want it to be the daycare's husband. I want it to be anybody other than what is happening. I don't want it to be my husband. So, yeah. But after that, so then my mother-in-law leaves, and then he comes home and he plays a game, Tickle Monster, which again, a lot of people might do Tickle Monster. My kids love to be tickled, but you can run around the kitchen, then the office, and come back to the couch and do a circle back to the living room. And he did this. And this is somebody who's been laying on the couch for the last few weeks and months, not having any energy. He comes home and he's got energy, and he's playing the Tickle Monster. I'm the green monster. I'm going to get you. And I'm sitting there on the floor, but the girls are laughing at him this time. Now they're loving this man. They're not afraid of him at this time. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, do I yell? Do I stop it? What am I supposed to do here? What's the proper thing? Because why in the world is he playing green monster? The girls just called, oh my gosh, that's exactly what he's doing. He's playing this game, and he's the green monster because he plays these games called the green monster. He's going to start going. And I'm like, I said, stop. Girls, we're leaving. We're going to go. We're going to go to the library. We're going to the library. And he had bowling to go to, or some like men's card game or something. And I said, and that was Thursday night, because she disclosed on the Wednesday. So Thursday I said, we're leaving. I got to get out of here. So in the drive, they're in car seats, and she's in a bigger car seat, of course. She says to me, she suddenly becomes an alien again. And I get a little exasperated. I'm like, you are not an alien. And then I was like, I was like, okay, honey, why are you an alien? And she said, it's because she's scared. I'm too scared. I can't talk about it. I can't. And then I said, honey, what is too scared? And I said, we're in a car. Nobody can hear you. Nobody knows what you're saying. You're safe. You can tell mommy. Well, she says she's too scared because mommy's going to go to heaven and there's going to be blood everywhere. And to hear your child who just disclosed telling you that you're going to heaven and blood's going to be everywhere. And that's why it's just so scary for your 4-year-old child to talk and comprehend. And if she keeps talking, I will be in heaven. And then shortly after, she falls asleep, and I am just driving like I am in the twilight zone. What? I just listened to my daughter tell me that blood is going to be everywhere, and that's why she's an alien. She's scared to death. I would want to be an alien too. I want to get the heck away out of here, So that's Thursday evening. We go to the library, and the girls took just a little bitty nap, and I call a child psychologist. We schedule for the following Monday. So it's Thursday night. Again, I don't know what I'm doing. It's getting weirder and weirder. I need to sit down and talk with him, but I absolutely won't let him around the girls. So I get home, I lock the bedroom door. He didn't want to go stay at his mom's. And of course he's telling me it's not him. So then the girls and I finally fall asleep, and in the room. The next morning he knocks on the door, and okay, the girls were still asleep. I let him in, and horrible mistake here. This is a man that's very modest. I've never seen him naked around our children ever. He then so Friday morning now, he goes, takes a shower. The girls start to wake up a little bit, and there's the baby. the youngest is still asleep. The oldest had just woken up, and he opens the door stark naked right there. No towel. I've never seen him in front of, and I am like, and she gets scared. Gas goes underneath the covers, and I'm like, what? I kind of mouth, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And I am not kidding you. It was like you'd taken him and put an air, like before he'd walk around like half hunched over. Now it was like king of the castle. It was like you blew him up with air, and he's so proud. And he like almost skips across to his dresser to get some clothes. And I am like, and the oldest is trembling under the covers, and I'm just in utter disbelief of what in all of the world is happening right now. Why would you do this? This is absolutely insane. And she then, he either gets out, or I make him get out, or I get and then now she's thrown a fit. She didn't want to go to daycare. She's in utter terror mode again. And I called off again from work, and I couldn't believe this is absolutely why, who is this? What is going on here? You know, so I'm trying to think of his mom. His mom did not come that day. I think I told her not to come. But they took a nap, and when they were napping, he and I were talking, and I said, because he's like, how are the girls doing today? And I was like, I have some questions. Why is our oldest telling me there's going to be blood everywhere and I'm going to be in heaven? What is going on here? And so he comes, and I'm like, we're sitting on the couch and talking. And I was like, so I'm asking him all these questions. She's not saying it's anybody but you. You're telling me it's not you. She's saying why would she possibly, how could she say I'm going to die, and she's afraid of you because there's going to be blood everywhere? And he's nuts. I have no idea. She needs help. And then he goes, in fact, maybe you're making this all up so you can go live with your family. And I sat an inch from him, and I knew somebody had told him. I sat right next to him. I sat right by him. I got up and sat by him. I said, you look me straight in my eyes right now, and you tell me that. Repeat that's what I'm doing. You know I am not doing that. Tell me right now that that's what I'm doing. Somebody told you, and he didn't. And then and I said, in fact, Child Protective Services haven't even come, because now it dawns on me, what the heck? We're 2 days in, and he goes, Child Protective Services? What? I said, well, yeah, you said somebody's hurting her. I called Child Protective, and he flips out, and then he calls his sister, and he ends up storming out. And oh, no. Before he called his sister, I called Child Protective Services right there. So I start getting a little scared. So I call Child Protective Services. He's there on the phone, and I'm telling them, and they're like, I said, I just realized nobody came to help me. I called 2 days ago. And they're like, well, yeah, we decided not to investigate. There wasn't enough to investigate. And I said, oh, well, yeah, I know. And I was like, well, okay. She said some more things, and they said that she has. And I said, well, yeah. I said, it's kind of scary things. And they're like, well, what'd she say? And I'm like, well, he's here right now. And they're like, he's there, and you're saying this in front of him? I said, well, yeah, I mean, I'm being open. And so but come to find out, it's his friend, high school friend, is the intake supervisor. So they never came. Yeah, no. Oh, and also his sister worked at Child Protective Services. So his family knows these people. So I didn't know all this at the time. I'm in this, and call the cops. A lot of people say call the cops. Well, the cops, his brother is the chief deputy sheriff and worked at the police station for 25 years. We live in the country, so if I call, we have to go to the sheriff's office. His brother is the boss of the investigator. I'm not calling the cops my brother-in-law. I know that this family already has sexual abuse in their family. I'm not there's nobody, so I didn't trust the cops.
You can't trust yes either.
No. Yeah, and so he leaves and goes to his sister's house. And then the girls had woken up after the nap, and I have an audio recording of my daughter saying something. I don't know. Would you want to listen to it?
Yeah, you can play it. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Now let's see, here we go. It might take me longer. You know what? We'll talk about something. Well, I gotta find it in my
Sure. While you're doing that, so they had disclosed that the abuse is taking place at night. Was there any other times that this was happening, or was it just at night?
That's a good question. I honestly, I don't know. The disclosures is, I don't know. I know then. So when I do this recording, so the girls had kind of heard us talking. So that then they get up and they're back a little bit in this, not like there'd be times where they would love him and see him as their daddy who they love, and other times as the monster. I mean, exactly what he had trained him to do. Exactly. So, and things would become again more clear later based on what she says. So here she comes out and she starts talking some more, and I then I don't want to, I know my sister said be careful what you ask, you don't want to be saying you're leading, so I'm trying to, well, what's a leading question, don't lead her. And if I can, so I call my sister and she's working, and she says, no, the one was working at an attorney's office, why didn't we have the wherewithal go get an attorney and get them on the phone so they could have heard this? Then things might have been completely different. But it's kind of, none of us at the time knew a lot. It's kind of at the time shameful, or we don't know what's going on. So,
Sure.
but now I would say, oh, by all means, if we could have just gone back, but we didn't. So she says, get off the phone right now and get your recorder out and record her. So that's then, oh gosh, you know what, maybe another, it's somewhere in,
It's okay. You can keep looking
yeah.
while I'm talking, and if you don't find it, no big deal. But that's a mistake. And I don't want to say mistake because you don't know it's a mistake at the time, right? But who wants, it's like you said, you had every hope that it wasn't true, that there was something
Right.
else going on causing this. And that is humiliating to, for example, call a lawyer and say all these things about somebody when you yourself aren't 100% aligned with understanding what's going on because you don't have the whole story yet, And I think a lot of people that are in your shoes do the exact same thing. In fact, I know because I've had them on the show, people, even Samantha Baldwin, these are brilliant women just like you. So freaking smart. And they're so smart to the point where it's like you're able to create all these kind of excuses or barriers of why you're not, getting help, but you don't understand in those moments that that's what you need, because you're just thinking it's so much to process, for one. For two, both you, people like you, Samantha Baldwin, like you had no idea even like what satanic ritual abuse was, or you didn't even know it existed. So it's like, how do you even know that, you don't even know like what exactly is contributing to all of it. You don't have all the pieces. So that can be really, really hard, and I think we deal with that in a sense. Everybody does to an extent. I know there's a lot of friends that I talk to, girlfriends, who they go through something really hard with their boyfriend. And they're like, yeah, I don't ever tell my parents what I'm going through with them because I don't want my parents to hate my boyfriend. Like, we think about that naturally. We want people to see the people around us as being good. And it can be it can put us in a really vulnerable position to speak out of turn, or if we feel like, hey, I want to go say something, but I'm nervous that I'm going to say it and be wrong, and then I'm going to be humiliated, and then so are they. So we all look, ridiculous. So that's not a mistake on your end. I don't think people, like, we're not trained to do that.
Right. And if your child does disclose to you, by all means, like, especially like me looking back, do not go to that small little region where this person has connections. You should not go to them and do what I did at all. I mean, you need to become manipulative. You need to get all of your ducks in a row before you ever, and I hate to say this is absolutely horrible. I don't know that maybe an attorney can help you so this doesn't have to happen, but the only thing I could imagine doing that would possibly have 100% saved my children, which again, how do you do this? But video, and you catch them doing it. And then before, again, they cannot know that you're getting this horrible recording of your child getting hurt. And then you take it to somebody who can do something. I mean, again, I don't know. That sounds absolutely horrible, because then you're putting your child back in that. But all they have to do is say, she's crazy, and oh, you're the crazy one. And they will do everything. They have been taught what to say to the children, how to manipulate the children, how to groom the children, how to scare the children, how to do it so much so that should they disclose, it's the green monster who plays tickle. They've been taught on what works. If I believe very much so, he was abused by his grandpa then, and uses the same things. And I've since learned there's websites that these men can go on, learn how to help each other, protect each other, and how to manipulate these children. So these are highly skilled manipulators who are going to be doing everything they can to try and cover themselves. So I entered into his world as somebody who is completely naive to all this. Mm-hmm.
As we all do, and that's the other confusing part, is many of these people that I have interviewed, the people that were perpetrators in their life, ex-husband, boyfriend, whoever it was, father of their child, were very normal people in society too. Like some of them were very, very wealthy, came from very wealthy, prestigious families, were very proper, dressed very nice, had lots of money, were successful, were respected, held places in society, were on boards, were on, had doctorates and master's degrees, and these really amazing, or I should say, these professions that we are conditioned to idolize and never question. Like, oh, that's a doctor, that's a lawyer, or that's a judge. Like, they have to be good people. A good person couldn't have gone to school and graduated and gotten that degree. And that's not what criminals do. They can't, they're not capable of doing that. But that's the whole reason why abuse exists, isn't it? It's because these people are so trained to hide it and to cover evidence and make sure that their victims never get evidence. And if they do, it's hardly anything to hold on to. That's the only way that this can exist, is by doing that.
Right. And the societies, and the hardest thing is, I mean, how normal these people can seem. And again, they don't have to be alcohol. They're not the person in your head you picture as the creepy uncle next door or something. It's not like in your vision you would be able to, I can point this person out. Absolutely not. Again, my older sister had something weird with him. I didn't see. A lot of people didn't. I mean, and later things that come on down the road, it's still, that would be the hardest, that still is the most mind-boggling thing, to think of these people who are so nice in society, who have such good positions, and seem so reputable, do things in their communities to seem like very good people. They're so duplicitous and so they're actors. They are complete actors portraying who they are in front of the public, and then absolutely the worst of the worst behind closed doors. I mean, so
that's the part that people, they struggle to hold on to that, because it goes against everything that we were taught. We're literally taught from the time we're little. I remember kids wanting to be these professions. Like, we're not taught to question it. If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're on the police force, if you're in the military, no matter what it is, if you're in these high positions, like, oh, that's somebody to look up to, and oh, look at that car that they drive and all that money that they have and their big house and their life and their, their family. And almost consistently, that's been the same type of family that has been victim to these. And then the problem with that, like you said, is, again, we look at that as like a benefit, like, oh, that's so cool. Like, they have to be good. They're in this position. Look at their brothers and, the police deputy, their sisters and child, like, what a normal family. They're doing they're doing so many good things. They're helping children, they're helping the community, their family people. And you don't realize that that's the point. Like, they need people in those positions to corner the victims and make sure that there's not any way that they can expose what's going on.
Right. And through listening to Lisa's podcast and such, I've learned that the term plant, somebody's a plant. So maybe a therapist. I mean, imagine that niece who in third grade was masturbating. She's, I know, going to school right now to become a therapist. So if she's semi involved in this, she goes to become a therapist, so I mean, and it seems so crazy again. Well, there's no way, but no, it's for very real. There are some people that are and it is unreal what they are behind the closed doors. But yeah, I did find that recording. It's been a long time since I've listened to it. So it will, so this is Friday, January 22nd. It's in the middle of the afternoon. And I'm struggling. You hear me struggle to try not to do leading questions, and not have it. And so this is, well, it's been a long time. So this is going to be, let's see, it's 2 minutes and 31 seconds, and some might be hard to hear. If she says a name, I don't, but we'll see here. Okay.
I can edit anything too.
You want to tell me what's going on? What's making you scared of the dark?
Yeah. I couldn't go behind Daddy anymore.
You couldn't what?
No, I go behind Daddy anymore.
Why are you hiding? Why are you hiding?
Because
Hiding from what?
from Daddy, because he's scary.
He's scary. Why? What's he doing?
He just doesn't like pee-pee, that's all.
That's all. Okay. And it's scary. Okay.
That's why he's
That's okay. No, you're safe. I'm not. You're okay.
That's why he's a zombie.
That's why he's a zombie.
What's zombies?
I don't know. I think they're kind of scary. How'd you learn that, or what?
Well, and I'm kind of stopping there, but I don't know. Could you hear anything at all?
Yeah, I could hear that perfectly.
So I had never even heard her say the word, and you hear her then saying what zombie. So I can only speculate. She goes to say, but you see, then that's when I leave. You heard it from a movie, and I don't know if he's telling her zombie. I don't know if her grandma told her zombie. I don't know if she's been told different things. Oh, don't tell, I'm not supposed to tell this is a scary monster. I don't know. I have no idea how I'm listening to her. I'm trying to stay calm. And here she's saying the word zombie. I'm like, what's a zombie to a 4-year-old?
Right.
There's a scary person, and here she had said, she couldn't hide from her daddy anymore. He's just touching her pee-pee. And that's all but again, I will play this to the police. I'll play it later on. I'll play it to the evaluator. I'll play it to attorneys, everybody. Oh, I could be leading there. You're leading in. And so, and it just gets, it's not, I've had a lot, it's amazing that people just say, well, just call the police or just take videos and you think, yes, and then I've had people say like, so from here on, so she's telling me that, and then now it's her daddy. There's nobody else but her daddy. We shut the recorder off. She says she wants to shut off. So I shut it off. And then I say outside of the recording, I said, honey, can I ask you one more question? And she says, yeah, mama. And I said, how many times did it happen? And she knew how to count very well. And she says, holds up both of her hands and says 10, 16 times, mama. So I know it's a number higher than 20. We can count to 20. So I know that's something very high. And again, you hear me, I'm very emotional. I'm trying to stay very strong for my children. And I'm thinking, I was gone from April to August, Monday through Friday. I'd leave early in the morning. I'd get back on Friday nights and be with my children. I was doing that so I could work from home and have a job. But I thought maybe it happened then, maybe it was one time. So now I know it's more than once. And I think I said, was I was mommy gone or something? And she says, no. And I said, why didn't you tell mommy? That's what I did. I said, honey, why didn't you tell mama? And of course, if you go online and you read, they tell you, do not ask your child that. It's like, don't ask your child why they didn't tell you. But I couldn't help it. I said, honey, why didn't you tell mama? And she says, I did, mama. You were there. I yelled for you and you couldn't hear me. Now, I don't know that was real, but she said that. So now I know I'm in the house. I was in the house, whether she freezes. And I gasped and I hung my head down, and she brought her little hand on mine. And on this circle chair, I have the chair, and she said, it's okay, mama. I went up to heaven. With God. So, oh, okay. I mean, at that time, it was like, okay, I took a deep breath and I was like, okay, we can do this. And I was like, girls, pack your bags. We're going to leave this house. I want nothing to do with this house. I want out of there. But what do I do? Where am I going to go?
Yeah.
You know? So I know he's already played his cards and said, oh, you're going to go to Iowa. So I don't want to go to be where my family is. I want to stay there. She's got that counseling on Monday. So I just got to get to Monday. So in my mind, once she tells somebody outside of me, we'll figure out and everything will be saved and we'll be fine. So I settle on, I end up going to stay at his mom's house, and she says, you can't stay here unless you ask him. And I'm like, okay, I'll ask him. So I call him and I'm like, I'm going to stay at your mom's. And he's like, I'll stay there. I said, no, I need out of this house. I want out of this house. I do not want to be here. No, we will go there. And he's like, well, can I go? And the girls are like, again, they go back to, well, daddy. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, what do I do here? I should have absolutely said, absolutely not. And I said, okay. And he comes over then, and I can't look at him. That was the turning point for me. No longer is it the daycare provider. No longer is anybody else. She's clearly trying to hide from her daddy. Somebody's telling her zombies, monsters, all these things. And we're playing golden little cards, go fish with your kids. And she, though, she's crawling on top of him. She's sitting on his lap, where that's very abnormal. Normally she's going to be doing that to me. She doesn't do a lot of, he's just not, but she is all over him. And I'm just like, what is going on? Is something wrong with her? What in the world? And I said, girls, we need to go to bed. And she says, well, can daddy stay with us? Can daddy sleep with us? And can he sleep in the room with us? And I was like, no. And she said, well, can he sleep here and just stay the night? And he goes, well, can I? And I was like, I wanted to be like, absolutely not. He's a child molester, blah, 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 blah. But I didn't know. I said, okay. Well, I mean, she's wanting him to stay. So I said, okay. I get the girls, I go in the room and I lock the room, and then I get him to sleep, and I can overhear him talking to his mom. I hear him say to his mom, something's wrong with me. And he said my name. And I had played her his mom, that recording that I just played to you guys. And, she had called his sister before he came over, and they were talking. They were worried about him committing suicide at the time. And of course, she's trying to get me to comfort her son and stay in the marriage and blah, 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 whatever. And I heard her say, I couldn't exactly make out. I know that she said something about my recording or something that, and then I couldn't hear the rest of what they said. I didn't know. I honestly didn't know if we were going to make it through the night. I thought, what if he just kills us all? I knew, again, I can't call the cops because I'm going to sound crazy. So I had my phone set to 911, and somewhere I fell asleep, and I was watching the little base, the light, the bottom of the light at the door. In order for me to, if he was going to come in and kill us, I knew, again, they're gonna call me crazy, so it has to be in the process of me killing. So I fall asleep. I'm still alive. I wake up around somewhere 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and I'm panicking. I just went out of the house. He's sleeping on the couch. I called my sister, and answered, thank God, and they're even an hour behind. So, and she's like, you need to get some sleep. Take the kids right now and go to the cops. I said, no, he'll never let me. I knew he would not. He will not let me leave right now with the kids. There's just no way. She's like, well, we're going to get help. We'll get help in the morning. Just get back to sleep and we'll figure something out. So I do go back to sleep for a couple more hours, and his mom's making scones in the morning. I'm holding the baby, the 1.5-year-old in my arm, and my sister calls about 7:30 in the morning and asks for our address. She's going to call and report Child Protective Services because clearly I'm stuck on it being my husband. She's like, maybe you're so stuck on telling that's your husband. We just need an investigation to say clearly something, your daughter masturbated all the time, or she's now making disclosures. What's going on? This place should absolutely be reviewing and helping you. So I read off the address or I tell her the address. And then my mother-in-law is like, what? You just called Child Protective Services, didn't you? I said, no, I did not. She's like, yes, you did. You just read your address. And I said, no, I did not. My sister's though. And then he threw a fit, and he told him and his mom, she was sitting at the table. He was standing up behind her, and the oldest daughter was in, this is a small studio, like a condo. The oldest daughter was in between the kitchen. The youngest was in my arm. And then I set the youngest down, that she started crying. The oldest did. And he said, she liked it. She liked it. And now I don't know what, and his mom and I both said, no, she did not. Now, what did he mean by that? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I have no idea, but I comforted her. He leaves, and I said, honey, it's okay. And then I told my mother-in-law, we are getting out of here. And she told me, don't call the police. You can lose your kids. I said, there's no such thing. You cannot lose your kids. This is ridiculous. You're helping him. And she says, just let him and her.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Huh?
Sorry.
What? So, oh, Siri. She says, you're helping him. Or no, she wants me to have them sit down and just talk it out. And I said to her, that didn't work out for your family so well, did it? That's not what I'm doing. And that would be the last time I would ever talk with her. Maybe I've seen her, but yeah. Anyway, so I take the girls and I leave, and my family finds help. And when I talk to a detective, the girls are playing in McDonald's, the play yard, while I talk to this detective. And I'm working out what I'm going to do. The detectives, a professional is telling me, but she's so good. This detective was not like, go take your kids. She's letting me be in charge. She's empowering me. I've been so disempowered by somebody who's been controlling. Again, abuse is not on my radar, and she's like, well, what, so we came up with a game plan. I would go by the house and get some clothes, and I could go stay with a friend or whatever. And if I wanted to, I could go home to my family, that I'm going to try and stay it out to Monday to get to that therapist. So I drive by the house. He's not there. I left the girls in the car. I run in and I'm going to get stuff. And I'm like, ooh, my work computer. I work from home. I'll grab my work computer really quick. And he comes home. Yes. And he could have drove off with the girls. Stupid, horrible. They should have been, but he comes home and he doesn't want me to leave. He's throwing a fit. These are his children. I'm his wife. We cannot leave. And I called that detective. I'm like, well, we've got an investigator on this. And thank the Lord she answered. Oh, thank God she answered the phone. And I said, the detective's on the phone right now. So then he calls his sister. So the detective's on the phone. And she calms him down enough to say, I can leave with the girls. I can leave. And that the child has disclosed now, in order to protect him and his mom, they need to be showing that they're working with us and need to let me leave. And so I need to go over to his mom's house to go get like our toothbrushes and stuff like that. I get to his mom's house, his sister's now there, and they're going to try and talk me out of leaving. And I say, well, I'm not staying here. I'm leaving. I can't do this. And then we agree, like it's weird. It's so weird. The mom's like, I'm telling the sister she's crazy for helping her brother who's a monster. She's like, And the mom says, I can go stay with a friend. We work out like, okay, they will allow for me to go stay with a friend who is a couple hours away. And so I call the friend, she says, yep, you can come stay with me. So that's what we had agreed on. On the way to the friends, I pulled over and she's like, you need to go home to your family, get an attorney right now. It's a Saturday now. Go get an attorney and just, you need your family. She's like, but you're welcome to stay here. With open arms, you can come here for the weekend. She's like, but you should probably go get some money and think about getting an attorney. So I go get some money. $200. Woohoo! I grabbed $200 out of our account. And then on the way to her house, I realized I don't want to go home to my family. I know I'm going to try and stay here. I'm going to go to a hotel. So my mom buys me a hotel in a big city, a random hotel. And I go to the Walmart. I buy the girl swimsuits. And the next morning we're in the pool. And I see his friend. His friend showed up and he's there. And I knew I didn't have my glasses on. I was in the pool with the girls. And I saw the friend had a green polo shirt and a coffee cup, and he and I see each other. And I freak out. He's found me in a hotel. I was hiding in this hotel and he found me. And so I get the girls out of the pool. I stay calm enough to the girls so they don't get scared. And I call the detective again. I said, he's here. He's found me. She's like, he probably didn't. I was like, yeah, maybe it's not him. She's like, you can go to your family, go get some rest. And she probably thinks I'm psycho, not psycho, but no way that he's there. But he admitted later that it was him. That's what's so crazy. It was him. But the therapist, he thinks I'm leaving with the kids. He had all rights to come and find me. That of course, not alarming for a mom to be hiding in a hotel under an alias, and he finds me. But I got in my car. They must have thought when he and the friend saw me in the pool, they must have said, they're staying in a hotel. You're fine. They must have went and got lunch. As soon as they got back from lunch, I was gone, and he's calling me constantly. Every 2 minutes, I'm getting a phone call from him, and I'm driving frantically. Is he around me? Is he around me? As soon as I'm into the next state, I picked up the phone. I said, I'm heading to my family. Little did I know on that Sunday, then he's going to call an attorney and file a divorce. On a Sunday, the judge granted him everything on a Sunday. How many judges do you know that work on a Sunday?
What the heck?
Yep. The attorney and the judge, they all sign this on a Sunday. The judge gives him everything. I had no idea that this had happened. The attorney then has him call the daycare provider because he knows that she's a safe person. Have the daycare provider and ask her some questions. They feed the daycare provider questions to ask me. And I'm driving and I answer the phone to the daycare provider. Of course, I'm oblivious to all of that. I pick up the phone then with her, and I mean, it's about an 8-hour drive, probably with little kids, 11 hours, 10 hours to get home. So along the drive, she asked me what's going on. I said, I can't tell you. She says, are you coming back? And I said, I don't know if I will ever come back. So when the first day of court happens and she's on the stand, what is the judge or what does the attorney ask her? You talked with the mom. What did she tell you? She said she's never coming back here. So they used that against, they fed her exactly what to say. She looked at me in the courtroom and was tears in her eyes and shook at her and held her head down. And she's not to blame. She had no idea. She didn't, later she starts piecing all these things. All she knew is I went crazy and I took the kids. Because she'd have known about my daughter being this alien because I posted it online, and she's like, is that what it's about? I said, no, it's not about that. I can't tell you what it's about. It's just very crazy. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know that I'll be home. So I'm here. I go home with my family. We started an investigation there, but not a lot you can do states away. My daughter never disclosed in the forensic examination. In fact, she apparently goes they think she's autistic, but she's absolutely not even remotely autistic. So if somebody professional would rewatch that video and watch this child in trauma trying to not disclose. So she'd clearly been trained not to tell. But it's such a long story. How are we doing? I know it's been a lot.
How are you doing? I appreciate you sharing all of this. That's the thing about these stories is they're so complex. It can be unbelievable to hear a piece of it. If you try to summarize it, all these details are so crucial to just understanding. And for people listening, they're probably just like me, like, I'm on edge here listening to you, picturing being in your shoes and how horrifying that all must have been. And to be hit with all of that in such a short period of time.
Right. I mean, and again, that's where, I mean, I grew up Catholic. My ex-husband, this is another red flag. He didn't believe in God. I thought, oh, he does somewhat. We talked about going to church. The girls had not really, and as a family, we hadn't taken the girls to church, occasionally to like Easter and the holidays. His mom talked about having me go to her church. I would go occasionally by myself, but as far as the relationship with God, very much so. And then, and prior to all this, now, back when I was doing my training, everything happens for a reason. I went to a thing where I had, all I can say is something heavenly happened to me that will come later into my, that was not, I'd kind of forgotten about this during all this time. That was not in my radar at all. And then, but very much God has been in my life and is very helping me through all of this, because your brain is going to all these questions. Well, how'd she go from there to losing her kids? How could it have possibly gone so wrong? Where does it go wrong? I mean, it's such a complex and long story too. I mean, it's emotional, and it's just it's 2022. How in the year 2022, how is it possible a mom's on a recording who is saying these things while she has no, I'm kind of jumping forward here, but essentially very little contact with her own children. And for what? What's my crime? What did I do ever wrong? I spoke and tried to seek protection. If I didn't seek protection, I'm a terrible mom. I sought protection, and I never backed down from the truth about what that, what the truth is. And when you live in truth and you believe in God, you can make it through anything. I know there's somewhere everything will make it right. Everything will make sense. And if somebody hasn't heard Lisa's podcast and is hearing this for the first time, and you think, why would God allow little children to be abused? I do not think God, it's not that he allows it, but it's, again, we go back to that free will. If God takes the free will and punishes these abusers, then you and I and everybody in all the world is no different than a robot. We lose humanity. When God takes our free will out, he says, this is the way to be. And you can choose to be that way, or you can choose to go towards the devil and or the evil demonic things. And these people would rather have power or wealth or feed their own desires instead of doing what's right. And they're the ones in the wrong, but doesn't mean, like, when my daughter put her hand on my hand, she went up to heaven. She said, it's okay, mommy, I went up to heaven, and when I talk with my children now, if anybody was to see my children, you would be like, no way, all this stuff she's saying, these kids are so well adapted, they are doing so well, there's no way they've been through this trauma. And their mommy's definitely been taken out of their life, who is a very much involved mother. Their entire maternal family, not just their mother, all of us have been taken out of their lives. So these children are so resilient, thank the Lord. But it does go to show people can go through SRA and go through these abusive situations, and during the day seem very normal and like normal. Now, again, did my child have some things that were clear telltale signs? Yes. But was she walking around like, or were both of the girls, or are they walking around like they're doing very well in school, sports, interacting with other children? They might be on the quiet side, but I mean, again, you can't just look at a child and say, oh, they're an abused child, or but which is, on the one hand, good for me, because my children are still able to thrive and succeed in life. But yeah.
You're right. Even listening to Lisa's testimony, she was so high performing, and like every single extracurricular activity, like every single hour of her life devoted to something. and knowing what she was going through on the back end, it's unbelievable that she could function at all, much less at the top levels of everything that she did, and that is what's tough about it, is it's invisible. That's the point. Like, the deliberation of satanic ritual abuse, it's not just like this random abuse that is bestowed on children like people might think. It is very deliberate, very scientific, very studied abuse that has been researched for, I would say since the beginning of time, they've been, trying to refine mind control. That's always been a battle since biblical times, really, and it's only gotten more and more refined, and you don't know. It's an invisible thing, and that's how they're able to get away with it, and for you, how did you end up finding out? When did the SRA component come in for you?
Yep. So here we are in my hometown, and little announced to me. So he filed divorce. I'm thinking we're saving the kids. I didn't know at this time. I'm still oddly, he was wanting to reach out the girls, and I wouldn't let him. They're afraid of him coming into town, but then again, wanting to talk to him, and the back and forth. And so, I have to go back to his hometown, and then every other week, crazy things are happening. He's doing the judge then at the stand, that the daycare providers there, we both presented our sides. We got the judge recused because his cousin was the bailiff that signed on. So that it was the magistrate was the one that oversaw, and he gave me the house again and oversaw the original ruling. I could keep the house and have the girls every other weekend. The father would have them. And how dare I, he was to see those kids tonight. He's been 2 weeks. I can't imagine he's been 2 weeks off his children. And how could you keep him? They need to see him now. So,
oh my gosh.
yeah. So that night he came and saw the girls. And the next day she stated, "Oh, I wasn't scared of daddy. He was in his work clothes," or something. I have it written down exactly, but so every other weekend, and I had to watch my husband, and a man who my child said is threatening to kill her mommy if she speaks, who is abusing her. I don't know at what level, and is a scary person. And I had to watch him drive away with my children. How I did that was so hard. I knew if I didn't, again, some people would say, well, go run and hide. Maybe I should have, I don't know. But again, if you're caught, Samantha did try running and she was caught. I knew at this time I had known that story. I didn't know of anybody.
They want you to do that. That way they can charge you for something,
Mm-hmm. Right. And I still was being compliant with what I was told to do, not happily. But I fell to my knees watching. I didn't know if my children were coming home again, but they did. But sadly, when they did come home, they would, their privates they'd be so sore, and they'd be screaming in the bathtub. And they disclosed, the oldest disclosed to me that very weird story, very, very weird. She told me her daddy put her on the kitchen table, but nope, he's a monster, and told her he wasn't going to eat her this time, he'd eat her sister. And very strange. And that's essentially all I can remember right now. And then the youngest told me, who is 1.5 years, told me that daddy, she was laughing and she thought it was funny, and she took her little tongue and she flicked it in her lips and told me daddy did something to her. And I then recorded it, sent it to my attorney. We filed 2 child protective orders. I told let me go back. So I told the oldest, well, wait a minute. You said that your grandma took the youngest to the store. She's telling me that the grandma took you to the store. Now, again, I'm asking this to a 4-year-old, but I'm like, somebody's not telling me the truth here. And she said, well, no, grandma did. Grandma took her to the store. And then she tells me she bought her, what exactly she bought her. She couldn't know that it was Walmart. She didn't know the name of Walmart, but she told me what her grandma bought them. So essentially the grandma took each to the store while the other one was left with her dad. And he clearly abused them. And so I'm seeking help. I am calling the police. I started an investigation at this point, and the police are investigating. The detective opened up the case, but little did I know, again, I thought he's investigating. All he did was ask me, and they're trying to catch me they're going to be trying to frame me from this point. So essentially, so every other week, crazy things are happening. They lose my file. I have to go to the Bureau of Criminal Investigation and I'm forced to do a lie detector test, and that goes horribly wrong. It's things out of the twilight zone. And I'm telling my friends this. My one friend who I'm working with was a counselor. And unbeknownst to me, she was talking to a friend who was this SRA counselor. And the friend who is my friend never really believed in that stuff, thought this counselor friend was kind of cuckoo. But after hearing my story, she went back and met with this counselor, and the counselor said, oh yes, we know people in that I very much believe, and then tells my friend all these things that are going to happen. They told her they'd lose my file. And then once my file goes missing out of the police car, then that's where my friend, she's like, I need you to go get a burner phone from the store, and I'm going to have you go outside and talk to me. Because somehow he was hearing my conversation. So like he had this brown leather chair of his father's, and it was up in the playroom, and I took it down in the garage, and my sister's like, just go get rid of it. Leave it on the corner somewhere. I said, oh, he will flip out. I am not going to do that. A half hour later, I get a call from her. I'm a text saying, hey, that chair that's in the garage, I'm going to come get it. How in the world, you haven't been to our house? You're not allowed to be here. How'd you know that's down there? You either came and looked in my windows in the garage, or you're listening to my conversations. But then the oldest started saying that he was coming. She said he was coming to the house, and she was having a hard time sleeping. So now she's going to the therapist, that doctor, and the doctor she told the doctor, disclosed to the doctor multiple things. So what we would do to help her sleep at night, I would go to each of the windows and I'd show them they're all locked, and I would make sure they're locked. I get to her bedroom window and it's unlocked. So here she's telling me he's coming, and it is unlocked. And now, granted, he wouldn't give me back the house key. So I flip out, because I've been doing it every night, showing her the locked windows. He got in the room and the house and unlocked the window. I didn't accidentally unlock her bedroom window. It was right on the ground floor, and the corn stalks were behind us. So I then take the girls and I go across the street to the neighbors. I locked us out of the house, unfortunately. I wasn't even thinking. I was in terror mode. I just went to the neighbors and I asked if I could stay the night. So I stayed the night there, and the next morning I had Child Protective Service that was supposed to come. I had to go, my next door neighbors on the left of me, they were out of town. So I went in their house, and horrible. So I look like a crazy lady. I'm like, oh, he's coming in through the bedroom. It sounds nuts. So they're like, oh, sure, he's coming through the windows, and you slept across the room. You're a crazy lady, I mean, just the worst of the luck. So my friend's like, get this burner phone. And I'm standing outside. She says, Jennifer, I debated to tell you this or not, but if I don't tell you this and something happens to you, which I believe you're in grave danger, I can never forgive myself. But you can't, it's going to sound so crazy. They don't even believe you about him. They're not going to believe you if you say this. And she tells me about SRA and Satanic Ritual Abuse, and I'm in utter disbelief. But oh my goodness, her first disclosure was not just about her daddy, it was her uncle too, and it was about monsters. So I asked her, I said, can I ask you something again? I'm kind of being taught by therapists so she said yes, and she was terrified. We crawl under the covers, and that's when she tells me horrible and little warning here for anybody. I'm gonna say what she said, and it's pretty tough. Essentially a 4-year-old that was tied naked to a chair is what she told me, and it hurt, and it was scary, and there were a lot of people around, and they were pulling her hair, and it was so scary. They were showing her bloody pictures, and And it was just, she couldn't even go on and tell me more. She was shaking, and it was so unreal. I was like, what is, this is so unbelievable. I mean, how could a child make anything like this up? And I mean, and
They
just, I know, and just, but to think, and that, and there was stuff she couldn't say. It was so horrible and terrifying. And it's just, how could they do this to this beautiful child? I don't understand.
And
And
understanding like that world from a child's perspective, that they're forced to confront that and try to explain it. It's like, it takes your breath away, even trying to think of that being something a 4-year-old. I mean, that's horrifying for us to hear, you know, if an adult
Yeah.
were to tell us that happened to them as an adult, but a 4-year-old trying to make sense of something so horrific is like a million times even more horrific hearing it through their own words, you know?
The only thing that's the kind of blessing with that is they don't know that that's not something that's happening to everybody. For them, they might believe that's just what the world is. That's what happens to everybody. You know, I don't. I believe when we went home before her disclosure on New Year's back to my family, and I think that was, she was getting a little older, and for a week there she was completely safe. Nothing happened. So when we went back to this abusive environment, she was wanting to get back to that safe place, was upset with me. Why would I take her back to this scary place, you know? And so the next morning we were going to daycare. I couldn't lose my job. I'd already missed so many hours. I'm going to court. I'm fighting for the girls. We've been to countless courts. The therapist that she's disclosing to at the child protective order, she ends up sick on the first one, and didn't come. No show to the child protective order. A little girl's telling you these things, and you're not even going to go to the meeting, the hearing. And then the next hearing after so once my daughter disclosed to me that, she disclosed to the therapist even more, and it's in those notes for the therapist notes. I told her none of this to say. I just said, also I said to my daughter, if it's the truth, baby, you got to tell the truth. You can't just tell mom, you got to tell people the truth. They will help you. I told her, if you tell the truth, they'll help you. No. Why would she ever tell the truth again? They did not help her. So within her telling me that, then the next morning I thought, I'll say, was it my brother? I said his name, and I said my brother-in-law's name. And she says, no, mama, those are the good guys. Then she threw a fit, didn't want to go to daycare. Like you see, and there's a video I watched of a little kid absolutely not wanting to go see his dad climb up these stairs. And that was her not wanting to go to this daycare. And I had to. I was about to lose my job. And I told the daycare provider, hey, she doesn't want to be here today. And it was clear. And she's like, I'll help her. So the next day, the daycare provider told her that now Layla didn't disclose and I didn't disclose the daycare provider anything about SRA at all. That Layla just said she just wanted to be with her mommy. So they just worked out. She'll bring a dolly to daycare the next day. Well, he somehow, how did he know this? So here, my daughter disclosed that to me, and I don't know that he knew that, but he knew somehow. He broke into daycare and went right up to my daughter in the middle of daycare where she thought she was going to be protected. So clearly, and then the daycare provider called me or texted me, and we called the police. The police showed up. He was already gone. Nothing happened because they said she didn't yell in front of all the kids. So there's an investigation on this man for being a pedophile against his children, and he can walk into daycare and nothing happens. And then and then Easter weekend, I had taken him. That was on Easter weekend. She had come home, and again, enough times this time. Okay, her privates were red enough that I thought, okay, we're going tonight. If they see it, they can see that it's red and swollen. They were screaming in the bathtub. They'll be able to see now. And we were taken up to Toledo, and I begged the same nurse. I begged her, please do not call that location where I'm at. Don't call. She said, that's what you do. You have to call. I said, please don't. You can't. There's something wrong with those people. They will not help. And sure enough, the same nurse came back. So that was at midnight, 2 a.m. I said to my mom, I said, something's wrong. She's no longer helpful. And she was so mean to me. At the second time she came back and just barely looked at the girls. She claimed it was, the story was, I was not wiping the girls front to back. So their irritation was because me wiping them incorrectly. And I even had somebody claim that maybe I was abusing the kids to frame him. She told the counselor then, and the counselor, we reported it, or had to report it. And on that Friday was the last day, Thursday night, I think was the last night I ever tucked my children into bed. And I have a video of them. And again, had I known that was my last night, I don't know if I would have been able to make it. How could you? I mean, but I was so blessed. I have a song of my children walking in our living room singing, I love you. I love my family. And that's the last time but God is here, and they do love their family, and they will be home. The SRA component of that, so within a week of any sort of disclosure, that was the last time I had my children. And so since I see my children fully supervised, we had to start an investigation. Of course, everything goes wrong. If you think it can go wrong, it's going to. But essentially in December, he's awarded custody of those children. And I'm limited to supervised visitations. And in the middle of supervised visitation, my daughter did say she was sorry. She said, sorry she did this, that it's all her fault. And she was crying that she caused this that was her fault. And I said, honey, it is not your fault. This is absolutely not your fault. I'm so sorry. And she said, yeah, I know I did. I know it was me because I told you my daddy was hurting me. That didn't matter. It didn't matter that was in the middle of a session. But yeah, they call me histrionic is what the forensic evaluator does. And I attend therapy to say it didn't happen. And that's what I'm histrionic. I potentially hurt my children to just made them believe it was happening, and they can't distinguish right from wrong. If they disclose it again, he put this in his report, it's under lock and key. If they are to disclose again that sexual abuse is occurring, they have been so brainwashed by their mother, they need to attend therapy and learn it is not occurring. He gave them to a man that his own children called him the green monster, who grew up with sexual abuse, who did all these crazy things, and holds knives up to their dolls to threaten them, whose family's also trying to talk these children out of telling. And you put it in the order, and these people, a month after he had custody of our children, the oldest had rectal tearing and bleeding. Went to the doctors and they labeled it constipation. I could not do anything. Of course I was yelling and not yelling, but somebody help me. There's nothing I could do. Oh, she's overreacting. She doesn't even accept that her child has constipation, normal constipation. And the youngest started having nightmares. So they were able to give them sleeping drugs. And that was the excuse, is because the youngest has nightmares. So, oh, you're kidding me, right? So now he can give these children, but people ask all the time, do I think he's still abusing them? I do not know. I'm able to talk about this to you guys somehow. It's like I'm disassociating right here. Obviously I'm feeling the emotions, but it's like the pain of that is somewhere else. It's like I'm telling a story that's a fictional story that's real. I don't know if that makes any sense. You could see why we would want to not listen to these things, why you would want to get out of that and go somewhere that's safer, not deal with your reality. And Lisa's podcast and some of the people, they said that's a blessing that God gives these children, that they can disassociate and so that they can survive. And the one thing that my attorneys, I've been through 6 attorneys. So people say, get attorneys. Oh, we've been there. My latest attorney, I can't get to follow up with me. He ran for the county commissioner and lost. And that's where his excuse was, well, during that, well, I'm not too available. Then he ran for be a judge. He lost that. We went to the Supreme Court. he told me that it was COVID and it was just taking a while to get any answers and I need to be patient. And little did I know, the Supreme Court closed, the case was brought to them in September. They closed it in November. The last time I ever spoke to my attorney was July of last year of 21. And he told me that it's still ongoing. He didn't know that I knew it was closed, or at that time I didn't know it was closed. One of your guests, Michael Volpe, had told me you can call and get that information. So when they told me it was closed, my attorney blindly lied to me. People ask, what can we do to help? Oof. What we can do is talk to your legislators. I've called them all and they refer me back to my county commissioner. County commissioner is my ex-niece's father-in-law.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yep. But what we can do is, like the right behind you, do all things with love. We can love, we can connect with God. When I drive to go, why am I back away from my children now? They took my children and forced me to pay $1,400 a month in child support. I could not survive and do that. I lost my home. I couldn't live there. I tried. I knew God has my side. This is truth. I will find a job. I'll be here. I had this cute little home I was able to buy with help of family, but I couldn't afford to pay it. So I lost the home and I moved home to be where my family is. And I'm getting better financially. We have not knocked the child support down. It's down to around 1,000 right now. I was over $16,000 in child support debt because I stopped paying it, because when I moved back every week, I was going to see the girls and I knew, somebody's going to help me save this. So I stopped paying child support. Well, he threatened to send me to jail. So every time I would go back, I said, go ahead and do that in the state of where he lives. If it's over $5,000, or you can be sent to jail with back ordered child support. And I thought, if you do that, that's just going to show who you are. And so I went every time knowing this could be the day I'm arrested. I'm not allowed to see my children without a sheriff in the room next door. I have somebody sitting in the room with me and my children, scribbling down every word and interaction I've had with my children for 6 years. But my attorney did fight for me that I can talk about God with my children. The GAL, who's a nasty lady, I could spend a whole podcast talking about her, but she tried saying this mother's not allowed to do that. Well, that's freedom of religion. That's the one thing I can do, is teach my children of God. But they teach me God when I'm with them. They are so loving, and there is a purpose for all of this. One day we'll know. Maybe I keep praying that hopefully tomorrow will be the day that they can be home. I pray that it's not happening. I pray that SRA is not happening. If a hair is on my children's head, we know that these people are, then there's your proof. But God, nothing's going to happen to my children. They're blessed, and and they're doing very well in school, love school. And yeah.
And that's one of the things that's like so heartbreakingly beautiful about you is I can't think of anything more horrifying to face than, what you are and what they have and still may be. And the way that and I don't know many people, honestly, on this whole planet that could do what you're doing and wake up every day. And because the way that they do this, it's designed to drive you crazy. It's designed to get you to act out. Like, all of it's by design. People say the system's broken. No, it's working perfectly. This is exactly how it's supposed to work. They put everything in place to make the parent that they want to frame, the innocent parent, they put all odds against them to drive them to do something that they can actually label as, oh, they actually are crazy. Oh, look at them. They just developed an alcohol, addiction. They're doing drugs. They're going out to the club every night. All these different elements are perfectly, I guess, normal reactions to trauma that everyday people have, with going through way less than what you have, and it's like this, and I've seen it with Samantha Baldwin too. She's so calm and collective all the time and just fierce, like she gets so emotional, but there's just this fire in her. And I feel that in you too. You both just have this certainty, like you're so aligned with understanding that for whatever reason, God gave you these children and gave you the honor of being their parents to fight for them because he knew that another mother wouldn't. And that's what I feel in my heart whenever I talk to you. I'm just like, there is no other parent that these kids deserve than you guys. Like there is no other mother who would go through the lengths that you are. A lot of them would cave or would end up giving in to what the system wants to do. And it's so understandable why they would, I'm so much more empathetic to hearing about, people who do fall off the deep end or do end up going crazy or developing an addiction. It's like, who couldn't, like who wouldn't want to just go drink those sorrows away or get away or just do anything you can to distract yourself from it, and there's such a strength in you guys being able to say, that's exactly what you want of me. And I'm going to 100 million% every day do the exact opposite of what you think I'm going to do. I'm going to play by your rules, not because I want to, but because I know that this is the only way that I have a fighting chance of succeeding in this, and they don't expect that of you. Like, just like how we were talking about earlier, they hunt women like you, like me, like Samantha, like women that are caring and vulnerable in a sense of looking for the good and being optimists in this world and wanting to see the best in people, and those are the people that they think will never fight. And that's where they underestimate it, but man, I'm just like, I'm so blown away by you. And the fact that you're able to talk about this and that like you want to share and you see a value in helping potentially others and bringing awareness to this, it's like, I'm just in awe of you, if I'm to be completely frank. I feel speechless a lot of times meeting and talking with especially parents, survivors too, but I can't picture feeling that feeling of being so helpless with your own children. It's just like, I can't fathom.
And there are times where you're taken down to your knees. And every time that I've ever done that, there's that Akiane Kramaric, I don't know if I'm butchering her name, but she drew a picture of Jesus. And if I look at that, I feel Jesus with me. All I have to do is call Jesus, come with me. And he helps me. I might fall down, but when I stand up, I feel stronger. I feel like talking about this obviously is emotional, but and I know it sounds crazy when I hear him like, well, they called me crazy. And it's like, oh, you want to be careful about what you say. But the SRA thing, that I didn't talk about for the longest time because I was afraid, oh, they already think you're crazy and they're not going to believe you if they talk about this. But that is the truth. That is exactly, I've told it exactly how it happened. And prior, I know this is super long, but we could talk, I could come on another time and tell you, God has come into my life so many ways. And I was blessed with an angel coming to show me things and it was real. And I just know the truth prevails and good wins out. The light shines in the darkness and the darkness has overcome it not. And we'll keep shining that light. Is it always easy? No. But when you have Jesus with you, you can shine that light forever.
What advice would you give to a survivor who's maybe still going through this or recovering or in a space where they're maybe fighting with opposition coming after them if they are getting away or speaking out, or parents that might be going through this?
Yes. So again, first and foremost, I'm so sorry that you've had to experience this. It's not your fault. sexual abuse, these manipulators, the SRA, they're manipulators. They are going to make you enjoy what is happening. They know that. So it is not your fault if it felt good at the time, or if you did anything that you're not happy. Any choice has already been made. You did not deserve that, and I am so sorry that you had to go through that. But there are so many people. We'll put our arms around you. We will hug you. We will help you through that. You have a voice. You have a story. You can make it through this, and you can make it through much easier if you find a way to connect with God, whether that's listening to Christian music, reading the Bible, talking about God with other people, going in nature, going to church. Find the beauty in things. When I have to drive and leave my children, it is the hardest thing in all of the world. But I can't tell you the number of when I just lift, it's like the colors of the universe, instead of becoming dimmer, are so bright because God has made them bright for me. Rainbows appear, double rainbows. I'll find hearts in the clouds. If you look for the beauty in the world and the things to show you love and light, you will overcome and you will rise up out of that darkness. There's that show called Made, or I think it's called Made, where this lady, they did a very good job of depicting what depression is like. There's been a few times where they show this person way down and deep in this darkness. You can get out of that darkness with God. If you feel him in your heart, he will come to you. It is the easiest thing. If you try and you're still not seeing them, then get to anything that finds beauty, whether that's children. If you're at work and you see somebody walk in your door, you can smile and create love with that person. You have the ability to create love everywhere you are. That is so more powerful than those people, than what they're trying to steal from you and these children. We are much more, that is the most important thing. We will overcome that, and they know that. We are so much more powerful when we feel love and create love and energy. That is what overcomes all pain, all darkness. And do everything just exactly. That pillow is perfect behind Emma there. Do all things with love, and you can overcome any darkness. And that love is an energy that you might not see, but it's a real thing. That's a gift, the most powerful gift in all the world, more important than anything you put on your finger, more important than any car you drive, any house you're in, is love and the energy that's created because of the things that the energy that's the most important thing in the whole world.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I feel all teary. I'm like super emotional now. Just, you inspire me so much. There's so many heavy things in this world, and the world is enthralled right now in fear. Everybody, even people, the last few years especially, have catapulted a lot of people past their comfort zone. And there's so much low vibration in this world, and there's so many people that feel all these horrible negative emotions. And it's people like you. I always say, and I made a post about it recently, I was like, I wish, and I can't wait for a day when survivors and mothers run the world. If we all have so much to learn from you, and these deep lessons that can only come from surviving the things that are meant to break you, and I used to be somebody who I loved, and I still love, like, listening to business podcasts and people who are successful in different areas of their life. And like, I love the underdog who became the achiever somehow, the overcomer, the victor, the survivor. Like, I live for those stories, because there's nothing more inspiring to me than somebody overcoming what's against them. But with somebody like you, with somebody like Lisa, you are facing and had to overcome and have to overcome the things that you never chose to participate in. You never gave consent to go through what you did, and had no idea that you were even going through it. And it's an incredible redefinition to me of what the word success or achievement means, and not in this like glorified way, but in a way of what a lesson to be able to come out the other side of something so horrible and to find nobility in it, to recognize things to be grateful for that maybe you wouldn't see without going through something so horrible. You know, I talked to Lisa and she's like, you got to notice the colors on the trees. Like, look how green it is outside. Look at the colors that God painted out there. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's something I never would think to go like admire when I'm not feeling good. And I've been doing that ever since she told me. And like, I noticed so much where before it's just something that you see every day, you know, but I just honestly feel like society has so much to learn from somebody like you know, and not just the people going through a similar situation or somebody who may go through a similar situation. All of us have so much to learn about how to raise our frequency and get closer to the, you know, love frequencies and the frequencies of joy and the things that God intends us to do. It's like we all get sucked into Satan's web, even when we don't realize it. You know, fear is a demon. Like it says that in the Bible, you know, and that's something I think people aren't thinking about is whenever they're in those lows, like, how do I get out? How do I suffer with intention almost, you know, and recognize that there's some type of a purpose and reason why I'm going through it in the same capacity that there would be a reason that I'm going to do something good or achieve something positive that I view as positive. You know, there's honor in suffering when it's not good. And we all are faced with things. Everybody, even the people that have the best lives, go through challenges that throw them off, you know, and we're not taught those resilient skills. We're not taught that these things might happen to us. We're not taught how to comfort or believe somebody who has gone through it, or that these things are even possible, you know, and without people like you, I'd have no idea that any of this was happening, you know, and it changed my life learning about it. And so I can't thank you enough, Jennifer, for just your courage to do something like this and to keep fighting and to stand in your truth, despite everything that you're risking and sacrificing to do so. And just the fact that, you know, you can see the beauty in your daughters just as much as you understand the painful side. And, you know, it's just, you're just such a beautiful, amazing person who inspires me on such a deep level. And I'm so sorry for what you're going through and what you went through and for what your daughters are going through. Like, you don't deserve that and they don't deserve that. And my hope is that you and all these parents speaking out, the Samantha Baldwins, that it becomes so loud and there's so many of you that people can't look away. They can't say, oh, she's just a crazy one person, or that's just a one-off type story. That's not happening anywhere else in the world. Well, how are all these perfect strangers going through something so similar and they've never met, they don't even live in the same area, no connections, no knowledge of each other, and somehow have similar stories all the way across the world, you know?
Right. Yeah. And if enough people demand, and these attorneys, oh, I know the system's broken. Stop saying, you know, the system's broken and do something about it. You know, stop worrying about the next paycheck coming in and your career going so great. Join together and maybe your career would go greater, if even more so that you don't even imagine, if you were to get together and create things that were to call out the truth of the failures of our justice system. And but yeah. So
I couldn't agree more. And I know that those people are out there, you know, there are people who are going to emerge and be that person, you know, and I hope the more that this information gets out, that stories like yours reach those ears. And so that person can come forth and say, oh, here I am, you know, they've been covering up my voice too, but I'm here, you know, and that's all that I ask people listening. You know, please, if you guys have any resources, if you guys know of anything that we might not regarding a case like this, you've heard my podcast, you've heard Lisa's podcast. If you listen, these stories aren't unique, sadly, you know, they're unique in the sense that it's so different than what we're conditioned to believe exists. But in the grand scheme of things, it's so common. And there's probably so many parents going through this that decided not to even disclose, you know, this aspect, or they were silenced into not disclosing. So there could be even way more going through this than we could ever possibly imagine, you know, and it does take all of us doing our small part, whether that's just taking a podcast like this and sharing it with one friend who you trust, who you know might listen, that you can have a conversation about, and then maybe they'll go pass it on to a friend. And that's all it takes, and I shouldn't say that's all, it takes a lot more than that, but don't ever think that your voice or your small action is too little. Every great movement started with one person. And then once you have two people, you're not alone anymore, and you're not that lone black sheep. Like, you have one follower coming, and then you get another one. And pretty soon the minority becomes the majority. And that's my hope, is that people listening find the inspiration within themselves to take some sort of action, whether that is just sharing, whether that's supporting, whether that's going out in your community and doing something, or, bringing awareness in your own unique way. And Jennifer, I'm so grateful that you came on and talked. I'd love to have you on another time. I think there's so many lessons, and like you were saying, to talk about God and have an episode on that part of your journey. But in the meantime, is there anything that you want to say before we end for today?
Thank you so much for giving me a voice. Thank you so much for shedding this awareness out and listening through these hard topics. And God bless you, Emma, for believing and spreading the awareness as well, and for helping us. Again, I go back to Lisa's podcast, to feel like victors and to be motivated to keep going and to keep fighting and to keep sharing. So thank you, and thank you to every prayer that is lifted up. And for everybody taking a moment to listen to what we've been through. And one day, when I get to get on here with two little girls, I will teach them there is no shame in anything they ever went through. And they will be the game changers, and are the game changers too. So thank you to my little girls who teach me every day what it's like to be heroes. I'm so blessed to be their mama. So thank you.
They're so blessed to have you as their mama. And everybody, please lift Jennifer up in prayer. Please say prayers for her now. Keep her in your prayers every day. Say prayers for all the parents out there going through this. And thank you all for listening. I appreciate your support so much. It does mean the world that you guys do stick through and support and care about these stories and connect with the guests. And Jennifer, is there any places for people to connect with you, or is there anything, any ways that people can support you, or any donation funds or anything like that?
So I am currently, and this is what's hard, if they could reach out to you, Emma, or I've done some TikToks and I've spoken some publicly where I've shown my face and I've spoken publicly, but not about the scary thing of SRA. So I'm still trying to grasp on how do I talk about that. And but what I can say right now, that I do believe I believe so much that prayers are very worthy. And right now, pray and pray and pray. Pray that for my children, most importantly, that they know that God is there. They don't forget how to find God in this. Pray for the little kids out there, that you put a light of love around them that are going through this, that might not know that God is there. Pray that that the moms and the dads, or the people, can find a way to get out of this and find love. And I can take those prayers right now. So, yeah.
We hold you in prayer, Jennifer, and it's been an honor having you on. And for everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. God bless all of you, and we will see you next week.